Hey everyone, this is David Brown from Lycobirds, and today is June 4th, 2023. This morning I went birding with my brother and another friend at State Game Lands 252 in southern Lycoming County, Pennsylvania. We came into the parking area off of Pikes Peak Road, and my brother was here a week ago and he said that the parking lot was not expanded like it is now. There actually used to be kind of a turnaround circle with a tree in the middle. So they've done some work in the past week. Not sure what the plan is, but something's happening. I'll scroll through a couple of photos just to give you an idea of the kind of habitat. It's really a good mix. It's some grassy areas, some more early growth and scrubby areas. It has some more mature forest as well and some areas with ponds and water. So you get a really good variety of species. And since it's all the way at the southern part of the county, sometimes it's the best shot of getting more southerly species that are overshoots, things like yellow-breasted chat and white-eyed vireo, and we're always keeping an eye out for species like blue grosbeak. Here we have a hawk, and we see that it has a long tail and rounded wings, so we should be thinking accipiter. And we see that this bird has a large head, and it's got orange barring underneath, so this is an adult Cooper's hawk. Bobby had seen this bird in past weeks and knew to be on the lookout for it. It's a white song sparrow, and the exact terminology, a lot of birders say leucistic or leucistic. Maybe that's not technically correct, but anyway, it's a song sparrow that has some kind of pigment issue where it's abnormally white. Here it is taking off, and you can see how much white it really has on the underside of the body there and the head. And some of the secondary feathers in the wing here are pure white, but looks like a lot of the other wing feathers are more of a gray or dark color. Here's a green heron flying overhead, so you get that kind of small heron shape. They tuck their necks in when they're flying, so that it doesn't really stick out super long like you would see on something like a great blue heron. And their feet do stick out past the tail. Now it's a green heron, but you don't really see much green coloration from this angle. Really, the most noticeable color is probably this reddish color here on the neck and head. The other thing I like about this photo is we're directly underneath it, yet we can see both eyeballs pretty well. So I feel like no matter where you were around this bird, it could probably see you with at least one and probably both eyes. And with the wings raised, we see a little bit more of that patterning underneath. Here we have a small stand of May apple, although these seem like they've seen better days. Here we have a hawk perched up in a tree, and the first thing that should stand out to us is that dark belly band. So this is a red-tailed hawk, and I'd say it's on the more heavily marked end of the spectrum. Here's one of those pond areas, and the water level was pretty low, and we actually counted around 12 great blue herons just in this one pond. And here's one of them perched up, and the platform with the tire on top, I believe they put that there for ducks, such as mallards, to nest on. Here's the same pond from a different angle, and you can see there's other duck nest boxes, probably for wood ducks. And on the other side of the path is another pond, and this one's got a lot of vegetation in it, and this can be a good spot. We've had common gallinule in the past. Here we have a bird perched up, and it looks like it's white underneath with a dark head and wings. And at first I thought this might be an eastern kingbird, but looking at it, it's got a really small bill. So actually this is just a tree swallow in bad light. So if you have a tree swallow in good light, it's kind of a lightish bluish green color, but when the lighting's poor, they can look really dark like this. And an interesting story, the first eastern kingbird that I ever saw, I actually misidentified as a tree swallow. So this was kind of the opposite of that. Here's a green heron perched up in a tree. You can see that really long pointed bill that it'll catch fish with. It's got a lot of that reddish coloration that we pointed out earlier, but it's got a sort of a dark cap to the head and dark or greenish wings and back. Here we have a male Baltimore oriole, and we also saw a female nearby. So we figured there must be a nest nearby, and we quickly found it. Oriole nests are kind of cool because they make nests that hang down. Here's a female wood duck, and there are also a number of wood ducklings on this pond as well. We climbed through this downed tree and followed the road a little bit, and that took us into some mature woods where we had things like ovenbirds singing and some thrushes. And this white-tailed deer was watching us from the tall grasses, and probably listening to us too with those giant ears. We turned around and came back and walked along the other edge of one of those ponds. We had some cedar waxwings fly over. Notice the really small bill and black mask, and the transition in color from a more brown on the breast up here to more of a yellowish by the belly. And also notice that yellow tail tip. We only had one black vulture this spring at the Braddock Bay Hawkwatch, but now that I'm back home in Pennsylvania, black vultures are fairly common. There's two main things that stand out to me about black vultures. Number one is the shape. Their wings kind of sweep forward a little bit and they have a really short tail. So from a distance, the tail almost doesn't even stand out compared to the curve of the wings. Also notice where the black and white is. So they're almost completely black underneath. The only areas that are white or silvery are these outermost primary feathers. So they have these white wingtips, but they're not like turkey vultures that have a completely silver trailing edge to the wing. They're almost completely black. SGL 252 has a really interesting history. Back in World War II, the town of Alvira was taken over by the government via eminent domain to build a TNT factory. And so this mound here that's now covered in vegetation is one of many concrete bunkers that are scattered throughout the entire game lands. Here's a pretty good sized snapping turtle that was on the path. Here's a male chestnut-sided warbler, and this is a fairly common warbler in this kind of early successional habitat. You can see a lot of black on the face, some yellow on top of the head, and the chestnut sides. Here we have another chestnut-sided warbler, but this one's a bit more of a dull plumage, so probably either a female or maybe an immature. But you can see less black in the face, still has a yellow cap to the head, a little bit of chestnut coloring on the side, and you can see some yellow in the wings as well. In my video from a few days ago from the Slate Run area, I had pictures of a Kentucky coffee tree, and we actually found some more here in SGL 252. In that video, I talked about the leaves being huge, which might have been confusing for some people because you would look at this and say, well, those leaves don't look very big. But actually, the individual leaf-like things you're seeing here are the leaflets. But the actual leaf itself, a single leaf, actually is double pinnately compound. So it goes up and then it splits many times. So attached to a single leaf is a huge group of leaflets. So that's what I meant when I said that the leaf was really, really big. We saw the black vulture earlier, so here's a turkey vulture. Again, vultures have really small heads because they don't have any feathers on their heads. It's got a larger tail than we saw on the black vulture. And we can see that the entire trailing edge to the wings is that silver color. On the way home, we stopped on top of the mountain at the White Deer Ridge Hawkwatch site. And this is really kind of where it all began for me. I had done some hawkwatching in other areas, but this was the first hawkwatching spot in my local area when I really started doing a lot of hawkwatching. So this brought back some good memories of being up here and trying to hawkwatch when I really had no clue what I was doing. And here's the view in the other direction, and you're looking down on a reservoir that's part of the Williamsport Water Authority. And we even got to see a few hawks. We had a couple of redtails, and we also had this juvenile broad-winged hawk right over the parking area. But our main target was prairie warbler, and I can't remember the last time I saw a prairie warbler. Maybe last fall I got a quick look at one, but it's a species I really don't see that often. It's one of the real yellow warblers, but you can see it has some black on the face. Kind of a black curve here is pretty unique, and some black streakings on the sides here. And here's another angle at the same prairie warbler. And taking a quick look at the eBird checklist, we had 60 species. For ducks, we had 12 wood ducks, including a lot of ducklings, and we had one hooded merganser as well, which is a nice nesting species to get in the summer here. For cuckoos, we really had a lot of cuckoos. We had 6 yellow-billed and 5 black-billed, which is interesting because when I was up in Rochester this spring, everyone kept saying, where are the cuckoos? Even as we got to the very end of May, the cuckoos just hadn't really shown up, but there seemed to be a lot of them around down here in Pennsylvania. So they must be eating pretty well here. Maybe they didn't continue north, or I don't know what the difference is. But anyway, there's a lot of cuckoos around here in Lycoming County. We also flushed 2 American woodcock, which was nice to see. I know that they manage the habitat at SGL 252 specifically for American woodcock. We had 4 alder flycatchers, but we did not have a single willow flycatcher, although we had one trails flycatcher near the parking area that never sang. So that could have been a willow, but we'll never know. In addition to the Baltimore Orioles, we also had 2 orchard orioles. And we had 6 species of warblers with ovenbird, common yellowthroat, hooded warbler, American redstart, yellow warbler, and chestnut-sided warbler. So typical stuff that would be around for the nesting season. Not really any signs of any migrants still passing through. And at the White Deer Ridge Hawkwatch, we had 15 species, including a yellow-billed cuckoo and 2 double-crested cormorants that were down on the reservoir. And I picked up a couple new county year birds, which were alder flycatcher, field sparrow, and prairie warbler. Hope you follow us for more birding adventures. From Lycobirds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.